Good morning and welcome to Local Enterprise Week, Donegal 2021. Our event will last approximately 2 hours with a 5-minute comfort break halfway through. If you have a question, please post them on the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen, but feel free to engage in the virtual chat, but we will not be taking questions via the chat. Achairlach, Ara Troy, Hactadala, Cordori Kundi, Agini Uishla, Muncher Gno agus Charja. Hon offic fiantar áitiúil Donegal, agus chóirle chun Donegal, chum fáilte rótalig go dtí seachtain gó dábhíle fios sa héir. Si seo, in dhéim lína is achta támuid ag rátal seachtain gó, agus támuid cinnte go bhfuil clár iontas agin na líana. Ba haine ar winter gó, agus do gine atá ag smuitiú a gó a tosla. Támuid cinnte go manis of sult, lergus agus inspirad as an session maidin liú. Cathirlach, Minister Troy, TDs, councillors, guests, members of our business community from across the country and colleagues, you are all very welcome to Local Enterprise Week 2021. This is our 18th year running Local Enterprise Week in Donegal, and we are very happy that we once again, with the cooperation of our local enterprise stakeholders and partners, that we have a very comprehensive programme of events for our businesses in Donegal and for anyone interested in starting a business. We are confident that you will get insight, inspiration and enjoyment from this morning's event. Traditionally, during Local Enterprise Week, we would encourage businesses to take time out of their businesses, to dedicate some or all of their time during this week to attend some of the events and to hear and learn from other businesses and other case studies. While we can't meet in person this year, Local Enterprise Week is still a great opportunity to learn and network. So I would encourage you to take time out of your day and attend as many events as you can within your county. I'd also encourage you to give the speakers at each event your full attention. As we heard a couple of years ago at one of our events, if you're in the room, be in the room. So if you're at the event, be active at the event, because it is so easy to get distracted by emails and other activities, whether you're at home or in the office. This morning's event in Donegal is one of 10 national events, which are being live streamed from the national website, localenterprise.ie. And these 10 events cover topics such as green, agri-tech revolution, creativity, starting a smart business, etc. As I say, the full range of these events can be accessed from the national website, localenterprise.ie. Achar dus kon fáilte ifigul agus tosnú ofigul a chur chun ahan duine agus an bblion agus an seachtain gó go bhhaithlam glí ar an ara. Minister Robert Troy to address you. Minister.
And welcome to everybody to the Spring Back and Step Forward, the opening event of the first ever virtual Local Enterprise Week. I'd like to thank the Local Enterprise Office in Donegal for inviting me to participate in this morning's event. Acknowledge your Cahirlock here this morning also. This event is one of 10 spotlight events taking place across the country for Local Enterprise Week. There's no question that the past year has been one of the most difficult and toughest times for business. So it's fitting that the theme of this morning's event is about developing the resilience necessary to adapt to the challenges and opportunities facing business today. After a difficult 2020 and with a difficult year ahead, we all have to draw on our resilience and sheer determination. In business, you are already faced with many challenges, but with COVID and Brexit, border counties like Donegal have been hit particularly hard.
Minister, you're mute again there.
Sorry. Whatever sector you operate in, your ability to spring back will shape your outlook and hopefully help you to get closer to success. Since launching Enterprise Nation in 2005, Emma Jones has been supporting entrepreneurs and small businesses for over 15 years. Through her work with Enterprise Nation, Emma and her team have helped thousands of people grow and start their own businesses. Mark Pollock's masterclass on turning challenges into opportunities will focus on how leaders and their teams can build resilience and maintain motivation, embrace change and unexpected challenges to chart a path through uncertainty. They're joined by a panel of innovative, resilient, Indigenous Donegal entrepreneurs. Rosie Temple, a fifth-generation family member and CEO of the iconic Donegal brand Mcglaw 1866. Cathal Mcglaw, co-founder and CEO of ServiceBot. And Jenny Timoney of athleisure brand FitPink. Businesses throughout the country are being severely impacted by COVID-19 restrictions, and many have been unable to trade fully since last year. That's why initiatives like Enterprise Week are more important than ever, as they showcase all the supports that are available to small businesses and startups. It's important to acknowledge that Local Enterprise Week is only possible because of the support and exceptional cooperation from a range of stakeholders, partners, and businesses. More than 200 virtual events are planned by the local enterprise offices around the country this week, including your own office in Donegal. These include training workshops, information webinars, masterclasses with entrepreneurs and experts designed to help Ireland's small businesses and those looking to start a new business in 2021. And because this year's event is virtual, you can access all these events from the comfort of your own home or indeed from your own office. Events across the week reflect the key issues facing businesses, including the topics of resilience and recovery, the green economy, becoming leaner, exploring new markets, doing business online, and the new trading relationship with the UK. Over the past year, I know many businesses have relied on their local enterprise office for advice, training, financial help during these difficult times. Local enterprise offices are the point of contact for many of the government grants, training schemes, such as the new Green for Micro initiative, the Trading Online Voucher Scheme, and the Lean programme. Local Enterprise Week is the perfect opportunity to have a look at what is available and find out what best works for your business. They say that with every challenge comes opportunity, and the rising trend from remote working as a result of the pandemic is certainly an opportunity for counties like Donegal. With continuously improving communication infrastructure in the county, allowing more people work remotely, Donegal, like many places on the west coast of Ireland, has opened itself up as a wonderful location that offers an unparalleled work-life balance. The investment in infrastructure has and will continue to pay dividends in the future, allowing Donegal businesses and people instant and immediate access to anywhere in the world. Speaking to the team at the local enterprise office in Donegal, I'm encouraged by the strong level of interest and inquiries regarding the setting up of new businesses in the county. With strong demand for start your own business programs and startup supports for 2021, it's clear the entrepreneurial spirit is alive and well in Donegal. I'm very confident that through our collective efforts, we can begin to turn the tide on these challenging times, and we will spring back. With the continued cooperation of the public, the rollout of the vaccine, a return to normal life is becoming to look more attainable, although we must remain vigilant and abide by the guidelines to keep everyone safe. In your brochure, the team at the office in Donegal has included a quote from Doninsky And I would like to use another quote from him in conclusion. Do not plant your dreams in the field of indecision, for nothing ever grows but the weeds of what if. Thank you for inviting me to speak with you today. I'm sorry that I have to rush off to a commitment into Shannon, but I do hope to have the opportunity to listen back to some of the contributions later today. And just to reassure you that our department and this government stands open and willing and responsive to your needs. Feel free to contact us at any stage. Guramahagat.
Minister. Thank you very much, Minister, and we do realise the pressure you were under because we tried to record you, and thankfully you were able to come in live. And I also would like to thank our first person of Donegal, Councillor Rena Donaghy, for allowing us to bring the Minister in. As I said earlier on, this is the first event of Local Enterprise Week in Donegal, but not the first event in the county and not the first event nationally. Earlier at 10 o'clock, on Taoiseach Leo Varadkar launched the Green for Micro Enterprise for the Leo Network. And in Donegal, at the start of each day this week, we're having a wellness event organised by the Digital Hubs, led by GTech Grace and Digitas Agailtachta, CoLab and LYIT, II Inish Own Innovation, and Digital Hub, and the base in Stranraer. And I think my colleague Brenda Hegarty will mention those later on. I would now like to invite our first citizen, Councillor Rena Donaghy, to say a few words. Councillor.
Minister Robert Troy, Mr. Tunney, dignitaries, friends. I want to welcome you all on this beautiful morning to the opening event, the first virtual Local Enterprise Week. The world has changed so much since last year's event, but in spite of the challenges that we face, Local Enterprise Week is back in Donegal, and this year's programme is all about helping businesses spring back into action. It's great to see so many of our state agencies and business organisations supporting this year's programme. Local Enterprise Week is an excellent opportunity to network virtually and keep up with the latest business developments. Through our Local Enterprise Office, Donegal County Council is providing vital service and assistance to the local businesses. I would encourage all the small enterprises to use the opportunity to tap into the wide range of supports that's available to them in these challenging times. When businesses work with your local enterprise office, you are not just assessing the resources, you are also opening the door to the broader range of supports and services on offer from your local authority. Judging on its track record of excellence, I have no doubt that the Local Enterprise Office will continue to shine a positive light on doing business in Donegal, working with businesses, key stakeholders and enterprise support organisations to make the county an attractive and competitive location for setting up and for doing business. I would like to congratulate Michael Tunney and Brenda Hegarty and their team in the Local Enterprise Office for all their hard work in putting together such a comprehensive programme of events for Local Enterprise Week 2021. So I would encourage everyone to take the time to participate in as many events as you can. Go row my hagaf.
Thank you, Carlock. Thank you indeed. And as the Carlock has said, we have all been through a difficult year and now look forward with hope to a gradual improvement in our situation and in our ability to engage with others and other businesses. As a result of COVID, businesses, as the Minister has said, have experienced serious challenges and pressures. And this year at local level in Donegal, again as the Minister has pointed out, we have adopted the theme of Spring Back for Local Enterprise Week, with a strong focus on resilience. Resilience is defined as that ability to spring back to the previous position you were in. And I think it is fitting that after a year of COVID and indeed 4 years of Brexit anticipation, that we now have an opportunity to see how we can develop the mindset, the right attitude and the capabilities, not only to revert to where we were, but to come back better and stronger. So I think we can all agree that we need to be resilient in the face of uncertainty. And to help us do that, we are joined this morning by Mark Pollock for his masterclass called Turning Challenges into Opportunities. Thank you for staying with us. Hope you got a little bit of comfort, had a cup of coffee, cup of tea, or a bit of fresh air. Again, we heard a very inspiring story before the break from Mark Pollock. And I'm delighted with some of the comments that we were getting online. And again, somebody said if we were in a room, probably people would have given him a standing ovation. I think a very inspirational story, a very interesting man, and a wonderful case story for us all. I would now like to introduce our next speaker, a very strong focus on our second part of this morning around businesses. Emma Jones. Emma is the founder of Enterprise Nation. She studied law and Japanese at university and then joined Arthur Andersen, and within which she launched an inward investment group to cater for multinational firms' clients into the UK. 5 years later, she left the firm to launch techlocate.com. It was the UK's first inward investment advisor, which after 15 months was sold quite successfully to Tenon PLC, I think it is, Emma. The experience of starting, growing and selling a business from home gave Emma the idea of Enterprise Nation, which she launched in 2005, 2006, I'm not going to correct the minister, as a home-based business. The company has since expanded to become a small business membership community of over 75,000 people, primarily in the UK, who benefit from the events and supports both online and in person. Enterprise Nation also campaigns and is the voice of small business to government in the UK, and she herself is on a range of advisory boards and government organisations there. She is also the author of a range of books, from Spare Room Startup, working 5 to 9 as opposed to 9 to 5, Go Global, The Startup Kit, and Turn Your Talent into a Business. So I'd like to introduce now Emma Jones. Over to you, Emma.
Thank you very much, Michael, and good morning to everyone. It's interesting, I heard the minister say this morning that I've been running Enterprise Nation for 15 years, and I know that every time I get introduced at events, it just helps me feel very old that I've been doing this for a very long time. But lovely to be here, of course, Enterprise Nation at Enterprise Week. Very delighted to be here, and thanks to Michael and the team for the invitation. So I'm with you for 20 minutes this morning. I will be coming back for the Q&A panel session later. But the title of my talk is around entrepreneurial resilience. And of course, I heard the amazing story of Mark Pollock just previously before the break. But entrepreneurial resilience is what I would love to cover with you. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of brief background. Michael offered that in his introduction, but also share with you what we've seen pretty much over the past 12 months and the key features that we've seen from resilient entrepreneurs. So by way of background, Michael mentioned it. I worked for a very big accounting firm, well, at least they were at the time when I joined them, called Arthur Andersen, and started my first business 21 years ago. And the reason why I offer this kind of almost background introduction is starting a business then was almost the antithesis of entrepreneurial resilience. And the reason why is because for those of you that were around in the year 2000, I'm sure we've got some young entrepreneurs on the line today who maybe weren't even born at that point. But for those of you who were in business at that time, it was an incredible time to start a company. The media was filled with stories of businesses raising lots of money. They were transforming how industries operated. And of course, they were launching successful .com businesses. And I was really inspired by the mood of the moment. I was taking in all of this media, and that was what it was that kind of gave me the first kick to leave what was so-called the safety of Arthur Andersen at that time, to head into my spare room. I was living in Manchester at the time, head into my spare room and start a business and hope that it would go okay. But the reason why I say it was almost the antithesis of entrepreneurial resilience is because Starting a business at that point compared to now was relatively straightforward. Cash was very easy to access. I will never forget that because it was the height of the dot-com boom, I had a co-founder in that first business. Him and I wrote a business plan, which I still have to this day. It's a very big document, which in essence, in this big document, it said we're looking to raise £3 million and we have no idea how we're going to pay that money back, but we're a .com, so it will be fine. And the kind of, in a way, business basics went out of the window during that era. We pitched this plan to a well-known venture capitalist at the time. They said, yes, we will give you the money. And something stood really uneasy with me about that whole experience. I had been brought up by a mum who ran restaurants. And for anyone who has grown up in the hospitality trade, you'll know the basics of business are you bring in money. Hopefully that money is greater than your costs, and therefore you're making a profit if you keep those customers happy and you keep bringing those customers back. And I just couldn't understand how we were presenting a business plan saying we were looking to raise money, but we didn't know how we would make sales to pay that money back, was getting any traction with so-called well-known venture capitalists. So at the time, we didn't take equity funding. We actually went out and hustled and secured sponsors to get techlocate.com up and running. As Michael mentioned, within a 15 to 18 month period, we were approached by a much bigger business called Tenon PLC, who acquired us as part of their business. So really a kind of a 2-year period of learning very quickly how to start, scale, and then exit a business. And certainly in the Q&A today, I'd be super happy to take any questions you might have on how you value a business, how one does go through an exit process, and maybe even some top tips on how you get through a lock-in clause, which is what I had, that when we were taken over by Tenon, I had a lock-in clause to work for that company for 18 months, which I dutifully did. But for anyone who's been through this process, once you've started a business and become self-employed, it's very difficult to then go and work for anybody else. So during that time at Tenon PLC, we'd sold the business. I was working at Tenon. I heard Mark talk lots about his books that inspired him. I read a book called Free Agent Nation, which is written by a man called Dan Pink. He was a speechwriter for Al Gore. And despite the fact that book was written now over 21 years ago, it's still incredibly relevant today. And what that book charted was essentially the rise of the self-employed in America. So Dan Pink was saying more people are starting businesses, they're going self-employed, but the infrastructure across the US wasn't quite ready for this self-employment boom. He spoke about the government not necessarily counting self-employment because the data that the government was looking at was still very much based on agricultural or manufacturing sectors. He spoke about the self-employed people needing talent agents to go out and look for work for them. And I read this book and I thought, you know, I'm sure the same thing is going to happen in the UK. We're going to get more entrepreneurial, more people will start businesses, and they will want a system that helps them and supports them to do that. So that book, Free Agent Nation, was the inspiration for the business that I continue to run, which is Enterprise Nation. As Michael mentioned, started 15 years ago. And so I guess I speak to you today as a founder. We're a team of 30 people, but also as someone who runs Enterprise Nation and supports over 500,000 small businesses each year. We have people who come onto our platform for all elements of starting and growing a business. So this gives us quite a close view on what entrepreneurs are doing well and where critically they need support. So on that, I wanted to mention the characteristics that we have seen that I guess you would call entrepreneurial resilience. And I refer specifically to the kind of past 12 months. Anything that happened pre-COVID feels like a whole lifetime ago. So I just wanted to focus my comments on the experience we've just been through, indeed still going through. So the first, I guess, feature we've seen from entrepreneurs who've been incredibly resilient is those entrepreneurs who are so rooted in what they're doing. Mark mentioned a quote that if you have your why, you can work out the how. And I guess my slightly different translation of that is founders who are rooted in why they started the business that they did tend to be those that have that mental resilience to get them through. And of course, you know, as founders, you have good days where contracts come in and your team's happy. You have bad days where contracts don't come in and maybe the team is being unproductive and you're thinking, how am I going to make paychecks? How am I going to keep the innovation in this business alive? And of course, you've got to have something that does give you the stamina to keep on going through. And at that point, I think if you are rooted in the why you started your business, that can be the inspiration that you need. So in my case, when I have those bad days, I think that if we weren't doing this, we wouldn't offer that support to small businesses. And that why gives you that reason to just keep going. So I guess that's a slightly philosophical element of entrepreneurial resilience. A much more practical feature that we've seen over the past 12 months has been the speed and the agility of businesses to respond to change. So when we first in the UK went into lockdown, which was March of last year, what we sort of almost kind of termed that first phase is what we say is the dash for cash. We had thousands of businesses that came onto Enterprise Nation, and their key questions were around essentially, how do I find the money to keep on trading? They wanted to know about eligibility for government cash grant programs. They wanted to know about applying for loans. They just wanted to know, how am I going to get the funding to withstand this pandemic and keep trading? And of course, during that time, panic was the mood of the moment. Businesses didn't know what was happening. And that lasted for about 6 weeks. But then what we saw at Enterprise Nation was definitely a shift in mood amongst small business owners and founders. And what that shift was is essentially we had this huge appetite from business owners saying to us, okay, I've secured my financial rescue plan. I know how I'm going to keep the funding coming in. Now what I need to know is how I do more online. And of course, there's been lots of talk about this in the UK and Ireland, this huge digital embrace that we've seen over the past 12 months, where businesses maybe who previously didn't have a website have now built websites, maybe who didn't use social media have now embraced that. And we've seen this at close hand at Enterprise Nation. We've delivered for Amazon, still delivering, a program called the Amazon Small Business Accelerator. We're training 200,000 small businesses how to sell on Amazon, but of course also how to be digitally fit. We've been running a program for Facebook called She Means Business, which is training female founders, but all genders are welcome, on how to boost their business on Facebook and Instagram. So we have seen so many businesses turn to us to say, maybe they had a shop or a hospitality outlet, maybe indeed they were online, but needed to power up that digital profile, because of course that's where all the customers have been. And it's really interesting that we're almost kind of now, I feel, moving into the next pivot phase of COVID. If we can look forward to a gradual reopening of the economy and, dare I say, our high streets, what we're now looking at is almost businesses saying, okay, maybe as an online seller, I've had a pretty good 12 months. What I now need to figure out is how I get back out into the physical world. How do I trade in person with my customers? And actually today we're launching a campaign called Hello World, which is all around readying businesses to say, let's now give you the skills to deliver what customers want. We think customers will want experiences. They will want to be with their family again and go on trips. They will want to, dare I say, go shopping, because of course we've all been indoors. We've all done that online, which has been great for online sellers. But now these customers want to meet these online sellers from whom they've purchased over the past year and to create a sense of experience. We're opening a shop to enable small businesses to pop up either for one day or for 1 week, again, just as part of this skilling up. We helped you do more online. Now let us help you become a rounded, the term is omnichannel, but both digitally fit and a physically fit kind of business. So the entrepreneurs that we've seen who are resilient, they're rooted in why they do what they do. They keep bringing themselves back to, why did I start this business? And that will be the thing that keeps me going. They are incredibly agile and have adapted very quickly to any kind of change in the economy, whether that be doing more digitally or, as I say, now starting to look at pivoting to be more physical. And the third aspect we've seen, and Michael has referenced this, and my goodness, it's kind of all about what today entails, is business owners who have surrounded themselves with support. Particularly if you're a sole founder, you will know very well that starting, scaling, running a business can be a lonely experience. And so to find your tribe when it comes to support is so incredibly vital. And my thoughts and advice on this is try and find support at a couple of levels. First of all, there's your peer group. So there are fellow founders at the similar stage of business to yourself. And I can't count anymore the number of times I've seen a business owner talk to another business owner, and business owner A says, you know, I'm really grappling with something. I'm thinking about exporting, but, you know, in light of Brexit, should this be something we're considering? And how do I manage the logistics? Company B says, I've had the same thoughts. This is how we're getting around it. And you see visibly the confidence levels rise. Because, of course, when you realise you're not the only one going through this experience of starting and growing a business, it makes you feel there are others out there who can give you that peer support. So finding that peer support is vital. And, of course, as well as that, mentors. And again, just some advice we give to all the businesses that we support is there's a couple of forms of mentors that I think are particularly helpful to entrepreneurs. There's the person who's the industry titan, so someone who has built and scaled a business in your industry. And of course, what they will probably do is give you advice based on their own personal experience. They can hopefully shortcut your route to success because they've been there before, they've done it, and now they can show you how it's done. And a brilliant example of that is a great entrepreneur called John Stapleton. He started the new Covent Garden Soup Company, but he's now very involved with Board Beer and the Food Works programme, which indeed some of you may have been on. And he is a mentor. And for any young food and drink business, that's an incredible kind of mentor to have. He's been stocked in all the major retailers, he's gone global, he's raised money, he's scaled production. So a brilliant kind of industry mentor. I think there's a second kind of mentor that is possibly less well known about, but I think is equally valuable to entrepreneurs, and that's the listening mentor. So this is the person, and I've had the benefit of having lots of people like this throughout my business career, the person who you sit down with maybe once a month and you talk through the issues that you're having as a business owner. You know, I'm looking to recruit this person, but would they change the dynamic of the team? Is this the time to take on investment and really go for growth? You know, I'm looking at innovation, but how do we know kind of what's coming around the corner? And the incredible thing about entrepreneurs is you have got so many of the answers to the questions. You sometimes just need to talk out the questions and answer them yourself. And so a mentor who's a really good listener can be a really valuable person to have in your business career. So that support structure is your peers, founders at the same stage as you, mentors who have made it in your industry or those who are really good at listening. And then the third aspect of support, which is something we feel very passionately about at Enterprise Nation, is expert advisors. And of course, that's become incredibly critical over the past 12 months. We have seen small businesses flock to accountants to get professional advice on how do I raise or manage my money. We've seen small businesses flock to HR experts to say, I'm looking to either increase or maybe decrease my team. How do I do this in a good fashion? And of course, those trusted advisors can give value back into the business. And it's great to surround yourself with those people. So any questions you have that are maybe not your strong suit, you've got that network in place. I'm delighted to say all this support we're now bringing to Ireland. So as a company, we're expanding to Ireland this year. It's very fateful that today's event is happening because we welcome our first recruit in Ireland today, who's a great girl called Nicola Woods, who's going to be running our events and programs on the ground. And I think that's the thing, is the more support that small businesses have, the local enterprise offices, Enterprise Ireland, incredible support in the Irish small business ecosystem to help people succeed. But just to recap, as I say, those features that we've seen that have built entrepreneurial resilience in the businesses that we've helped, surrounding yourself with support, that ability to adapt and be agile and move at pace, and of course, that position of being rooted in why did you start this business in the first place, and can that give you the determination and the commitment to keep going? I wish you best in your businesses. I know we've got 3 minutes left, so if Michael will let me, I'd love to take any questions, or I will be back for the Q&A panel later on today. Thank you very much, Michael.
I'm not too sure if we have any questions coming through there, but just a few things to pick it up there. I mean, I when you say you're at it 15 years and it makes you feel very old, I won't tell you how long I've been at this. So, but I do remember the .com and the number of people who would come in, and the term then was burn money, and I could never fathom how anybody would give somebody 2, 3, 4 million just to find out whether this business might work with a blank canvas. But that was of its time. I think as well, just in listening to you outlining the role that Enterprise Nation has fulfilled in the UK, I would say, I think the local enterprise offices and their predecessor, the enterprise boards, were set up by the Irish government almost 30 years ago to fulfil that role. And I think at local level, the local enterprise offices provide a very broad range of supports and suite of supports. And we have found in our engagement with European programs and European partners that probably in Ireland we probably have one of the better developed support ecosystems, particularly for small and micro enterprise startups. And sometimes we probably don't realise that and give it the credit it's due. And just commenting on your reference to that move to online, I think a figure we were given last week, in the previous 12 months during the pandemic, the local enterprise office approved over 13,000 trading online vouchers to assist people or small businesses either go online or improve their online presence. And I think you rightly say one thing the pandemic has done, it has brought technology and the use of technology within businesses right to the fore. And I think people can do a lot of things now with their businesses that 12 months ago they wouldn't ever have thought of doing. So I think the must needs is definitely is impacted there. I don't think we have any particular questions for you, Emma, but you are staying with us and you'll join us for the conversation. At this point, we have 3 local businesses. Well, I'm saying local. Our first speaker is Cathal Mcglaw of ServiceBot. Cathal isn't quite a local business, but he hails from Ballyshannon in the south of Donegal, but operates his business, and his business serves primarily the UK or the US, and he's based in the US. So Cathal has had a very early start this morning to join us and was logging in at, it was 10:30 here, 5:30 probably, Cathal, over there, and you probably, as you say, you probably saw the sunrise. My understanding from ServiceBot, but Cathal will outline this, basically they try to simplify through automation the business workflows and the customer interactions that a company might have with its clients. So I'll ask Cathal, and he's looking really to talk to us about the opportunities in this time of change. So I'll hand you over to Cathal.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks for inviting me here this morning. Yes, I did get to see the sunrise, and it was truly wonderful. So my name is Cathal Mcglaw, and as Michael said, I'm born and raised in Ballyshannon. ServiceBot is actually the 5th technology company that I've been involved with. 3 of them I co-founded and started. And interesting to hear sort of Emma talk about the .com. Actually, I set up the first company, Performix, back in 1998. So been through 5 of them, have seen a lot of things sort of change. And I'll talk a little bit about sort of what has changed over those 5 companies. I was obviously very taken with Mark's speech this morning. When I set up my first company, my daughter had just been born at 26 weeks, preemie, developed cerebral palsy. So it wasn't the greatest time to start a company. But sometimes, as Mark said, challenges find you. And actually it turned out to be something that drove our company and really gave me a mission in life. So setting up a company now is completely different than it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you had to worry about building sales teams. You had to worry about lots of money for marketing and sales. Now it's so much easier. Now you can go online, you can get all the tools in Amazon. Selling is all can be done online. You can reach anywhere in the world through the social media channels, through Facebook, through selling through Amazon Marketplace. It's a completely different experience than 22 years ago when you had to figure out how you wanted to enter each new market. And there's so many, it's simplified, so many new ideas come along now, and smaller or niche ideas are the ones that are more successful from what we've seen. So taking any little idea, during COVID, what COVID taught us with that, even if you were just making sandwiches, if you went online and you provided your customers with a way of making appointments, getting delivery, picking up, you became a success, right? You no longer have to worry about where you set up your business. COVID has taught us that people can work from home, right? So you can set up your business anywhere. Your people can be distributed all over Ireland, all over the world, right? It's become so much easier. Finding services to help you with your business. There's a great company in Donegal called Accountant Online, which helps you get up and running on the finance perspective. So again, all of the things that you used to have to do 20 years ago, finding finance people, finding sales people, that has all changed. The amount of money you need to start a company has completely changed too. You don't need an awful lot. You don't need a lot because your primary channel is probably the mobile device. You're building software, a mobile app for that quickly. You're marketing, as I said, through the social media channels. And what's interesting is if you do it properly, again, can be done with very, very little money. Clubhouse is the big new app at the moment and the one everybody's talking about. I find Clubhouse fascinating because they didn't open up. They basically said, no, we're not letting people in, but if you get an invite, you want to join. So people wanted to join just because it wasn't available, and suddenly it grew virally, right? With very little in terms of marketing money. So you can do things really, really clever. And I think, the key in what the last year has sort of taught us is to be flexible, to pivot, to when the going gets tough, you need to figure out what do you want to do in that period. We in ServiceBot, once COVID hit, we spent the next sort of 2 months just figuring out how can we take advantage of this situation. And we created a new product line in about 4 weeks that we started selling, helping customer service operations in banks and insurance companies deal with the fact that that their call centers and their customer service operations were distributed. So there's always opportunity. It's about the tenacity to go after it. One of the key lessons I think in all the companies I've been involved with is, believing in your vision for what you want it to be, but not getting stuck in the details of any one point. If you have that vision of what you think, you surround yourself, as Emma said, with good people, build a team, I think anything's possible. So Michael, I think I'll leave it there, maybe answer any questions in the panel.
Thank you. You touched on it there, Carl, I think in relation to, the use of technology, so like, I'm just thinking in the context of the future prospects for small business. Do you see it as primarily a technology sort of business age in the future, or what does the future look like for small businesses?
So I think saw some great quotes sort of during COVID. The CEO of Microsoft talks about 2 years of digital transformation in 2 months. But the one I heard last week was that every company is ultimately going to be a technology company with a product or service attached. So no matter what you do, even if you don't think you're in technology, you're going to be selling online. You're going to embrace technology. You need to get online. So as I said, you need to think about having that element of technology to make you competitive, no matter what your product and service. Even if you're selling flowers, it can be done online. Making sandwiches can be done online. There's all sorts of ways of applying technology that can make you more efficient, give you wider reach. So I think everybody, no matter what industry, need to think about technology.
Okay. Can I ask you, just in relation to your own business, you mentioned there that whenever COVID happened, you had your own team and you looked at developing you developed a new product within a matter of 4 weeks. I know for probably small business and people in Donegal saying that's grand, probably Mcglaw probably has about 50 people to do that. I mean, what did that involve in your business? Just a matter of interest.
So yeah, and the company itself is still quite small. We're about 32 people, but we had to. All our sales suddenly started to dry up. All the deals that we had in our pipeline suddenly stopped as nobody's made any decisions, and so we as a team, both product, marketing, sales, we had to sit down and say, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to come up with an idea that takes advantage of the current situation, but leverages things we have today? So it was using technology we'd built, but we're now trying to apply it in a completely different way. And it takes a cross-functional discipline to do this. It takes all of your team, the people in the finance to figure out how are we going to get through this from a finance perspective, the people in product to say, well, what do we have today and what could we build in a week? What could we build in 2 weeks? And then how are we going to sell this? And how are we going to go to market if people aren't taking calls, if we can't travel to meet people? So it does really take a cross-functional team to start thinking through this, but it's amazing what you can do with teamwork, and it's amazing what you can do in the space of as little as 4 weeks.
Okay. Thank you, Carl. I think on that note, it might be appropriate to bring in our next speaker, Rosie Temple, who's going to talk briefly about Mcgee's 1866, but also address that issue about adapting to survive. And Rosie is 5th generation family member involved in Mcgee's in Donegal town, which is in there now along with her sister Charlotte and brother Patrick. So, Rosie, you might give us a little intro there into Mcgee's 1866.
Absolutely. Well, good afternoon all, and thank you very much for having me. A quick introduction as to who we are. Mcgee was founded in the 1860s, and today we have a weaving mill in Donegal town, weaving Donegal tweeds and other luxury fabrics that are sold globally, and they also form the basis of our clothing and accessories lifestyle collections, which are available through different routes to market, which include independent retailers in the UK and Ireland, and our stores in Dublin and Donegal, and our website, mcgee1866.com. In terms of survival, to touch on that, the business has certainly weathered a lot over the 150 years, from world wars to global and national economic highs and lows, and numerous seismic shifts in consumer tastes, and right up to the very present challenges of COVID and Brexit. But don't worry, I'll save the history lesson for another time. But we have had to adapt throughout all of this, and I'm just going to hone in on 2 thoughts around this. Firstly, the importance of balancing the brand position. What I mean by this is, for us, it's about staying true to our heritage roots, like our ethos of skilled craftsmanship, quality, and long-lasting natural fibre products, but also moving forward to remain relevant to the market. For example, 30 odd years ago, we were principally only about suits and jacket, very traditional tailoring. And yes, this is still core and still important to us, but in parallel, it has been absolutely vital to invest to develop a wider casual lifestyle collection, from knitwear to throws, etc. And I think this balancing act is applicable for so many businesses, from a 1-year-old startup to a 150-year-old family business, that it's that act, that balance of never losing sight of the character of what you do best, that why that Mark was talking about, while looking forward to make sure that we're remaining relevant to the customer today. And secondly, to actually maintain this balance, making change is paramount. And as we all know, it's no secret that this is certainly harder than it sounds. but it is so essential to constantly look at that model, to react, but also be proactive. For example, for us, alongside our very established business-to-business end in weaving and clothing wholesale, it's been so important to also develop that direct-to-consumer market through our own stores and through e-commerce, and to develop the actual brand over the last number of years. And lastly, I would take this opportunity to say that it would be remiss to not to mention that for every business today, part of that why that Mark referred to behind every business should take into account how can we do business better with the current climate changes in mind, and how do we adapt proactively to that? And that it's not just a footnote, but as a priority, which is so vital, not only for survival, but for better survival all round. So I think that I hope that gives a little bit of food for thought around adapting and long-term sort of into the future, and that sense of longevity.
Okay, Rosie, thank you for that. Can I just ask you then, in the context of where we are now, what has been the actual impact of COVID and Brexit on Mcglaws?
So COVID has, with all of the non-essential retail sector across the world, has been extremely challenging with the store closures, but it has also allowed for the opportunity to really focus on that e-commerce side. Which, like many businesses, we've had an e-commerce site for a number of years, but it's really allowed us to really look at how can we focus more on that? How can we make that integral to the business? And I think a lot of businesses throughout Ireland have done that, whether they've had to start a site or build on what they had already existing. And also then touching on some points earlier, to make sure that when things do reopen back up, that there is that integration between bricks and mortar, that experience, and that they're not mutually exclusive, that they can grow together to give customers both that online experience, but also bring that brand to life in a physical sense in stores. And Brexit certainly has been a challenge. There's no other way of saying it. The UK is a very important market for us and for so many Irish businesses. We do feel, of course, there will be solutions, but it is taking the time to really work through that and to ensure that route to market stays, but also looking at other markets and where can you diversify as a business and look at other focused territories that the product may fit. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosie. And I'm greatly taken by that comment you made about retaining the focus on the heritage and the tradition of Mcglaws. That's almost the heart of what the business is about, and not losing that no matter what. Because I think, as we hear so often, particularly in products like what Mcglaws produce, it's the story behind it that people really want, and they want to buy that story and make it part of themselves. So our third panelist speaker this morning is Jenny Timoney. Welcome, Jenny. Jenny set up Pink Fit in 2018, and it wasn't the first business she came to the local enterprise with. She successfully founded Doolittle's many years ago, and through Doolittle's, I think, was a finalist in the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year quite a number of years ago. So Jenny, you might give us an outline about your current business, and I suppose what you've learned as well from both it and your previous businesses.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, I suppose I'm going to start by stepping back to 2008. So I'm talking a little bit about Doolittle's first. So as you said, Doolittle's, we were a sandwich brand back in 2008. We employed about 35 people full-time with major contracts. So we had Aldi nationwide, which was 65 stores at the time. We had Topaz Energy, I think, which was 70 stores. Erara and Spardu BWG. So it was a fairly busy, intense business. So it was 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. We were dealing with sort of a low margin product, fresh food product. So we had 3 days to make and sell the product before it would go in the bin because it was out of date. Very capital intensive. So as soon as we'd get a new customer, we needed a new van to supply that account. labor intensive. So everything was done by hand right up until, until we finished the business. So it was always a struggle, that business. It was always a cash flow struggle. We were probably, when I look back on it, we were probably over trading. So I didn't give any thought at the time to funding growth. I just went and accepted, chase new business, would accept new business and not really think about the fact that, you're not going to get paid for 30 days from that new account, but yet you've got to put a van on the road and a driver to get there and pay them. So it was always a cash flow nightmare. And it went into liquidation in 2008 at the start of the last recession. So after that, I tried another startup very quickly in an area I knew absolutely nothing about, which was online. I've since learned an awful lot about online, and I'm currently in an online business. And that was an absolute disaster from day one. So after that, that was two very painful failures back to back. So I stepped back. It was a very personal loss, I suppose, a very traumatic loss. I had invested all of myself in Doolittle's. It was my life. It was the priority. There was no such thing as work-life balance. So I really stepped back after two difficult failures. My confidence was just gone. And I think when your whole sense of self is tied up in a job, when that goes or that's lost, it was incredibly difficult and something I really struggled with for quite a while. So I stepped back for quite a while, from 2009 up until about 2019. I stepped back and I did other things. I found myself, firstly, I found myself as a mother and a friend and a sister, and all those relationships that I had neglected, I spent time on, and I thankfully repaired. Gradually I started working on other things. So I set up a digital marketing agency, and that worked well from day one. It was very low cost. It was just me that worked. I set up a wedding planning business in Portugal with a Portuguese business partner. That again was an online business, and that worked very well too. I did some lecturing for LYIT, and more recently I managed New Frontiers for LYIT and IT Sligo. So all of those things really helped me, I suppose, help me repair and renew myself and get a broader perspective and a broader experience. Because I think when you're self-employed, as I was from the age of 18, that's quite one-dimensional. So to be able to work in other situations as part of a team, having to answer to managers, and that was very good for me, I think, and it gave me a very different perspective, a more rounded experience. So gradually, as my confidence came back, the itch came back. So I wanted to get into a business that was more scalable. So I sold the wedding planning business back to my business partner in Portugal, and I used those funds to start FitPink. So after stepping back for around 10 years, I'm springing forward now with FitPink, which we started in 2019. We're a team of 4. We're an active brand for women. We're supplying Ireland and the world from our website. We wholesale to other retailers, and we're about to launch on Amazon in Germany, France, Italy, and the UK in the next few weeks. So last year was our first full year, and we achieved a 6-figure EBITDA in our first full year. So we're off to a good start. So Leo have been amazing. As Michael mentioned, he knew me back in 2008. I had no intention of asking Leo for any support for FitPink, because I didn't think I'd be eligible to that with having had support before. But actually they were very supportive, and they have given us a priming grant for FitPink, which was fantastic. And they've supported in so many other ways rather than just funding. There's so many small courses or lunchtime seminars you can take, and there's always somebody at the end of the phone. And generally, I find if I have an issue, they'll have heard of it from other clients. So they're very helpful in that respect. So I think I just want to just say really what I've learned from stepping back. I'm a very different business person now, 12 years later. I was in my early 20s when I started Doolittle's. I'm in my mid to late, almost 40s now. So I have learned a lot. I would say now, I wouldn't start a business now without healthy margins or low costs, or both. I think without healthy margins, you're really limiting your options to grow through different channels and to innovate. So that's critically important to me now, is one thing I look for. I'd say don't lose yourself in your business like I did the first time around. I would treat the business now as a separate entity from myself. It's an investment. Its purpose is to create jobs, to sustain, to grow, but it's not my life. and I really work hard now to keep some sort of work-life balance. I would rely less on my gut now, and I would make more data-driven decisions. So before I would have relied on my gut. Now my attitude is that's lazy thinking, and I would really try to back decisions up with some research and talking to different people to get different perspectives. I would say too that people are everything in my experience of 28 years in business. People are everything. Your staff are everything to your business. They're intrinsically linked to the success of your business. I would say pay as well as you can, treat them as the important stakeholders in the business that they are. Engage and involve them in the growth of the business and the strategy where you can. I think if you invest in team, they'll repay the business tenfold, and that's something I wouldn't have had much perspective on, I think, in my 20s and previous businesses. One thing too, I think working in other situations and working with other people has taught me is a lot more self-awareness. So I would say know your weaknesses and mitigate against those. Double down on your strengths, know your weaknesses, and hire people that can to do the things, fill the gaps that your weaknesses leave. I would say always learn. I started my primary degree as a mature student in OAIT. I did a master's then through Enterprise Ireland and Trinity. I spent some time over the lockdown over the last year doing a diploma in corporate governance. So as I said, I have 28 years experience, but I truly believe in lifelong learning. I think education is easily carried. And I take everything from any course I've done, and it will always be of use. You'll always take something to help you learn and to help you grow. So ultimately, that's my story so far. I don't know if it's resilience or if it's just that entrepreneurship is in my bones, it's in my DNA, and it's something I think I'll always keep coming back to. I love what I do. If there's anybody watching today that's sort of on the edge or debating whether to do it or not, I would say absolutely do it. There's so much support out there. There's so many people wanting to see us succeed, and there's so much help if you're willing to access it and to go forward.
Thank you, Jenny. And I think from your story and knowing you over that period of time, I think resilience is definitely one of those things that would define you. And you come back stronger, I think, and better. But I think, as you were saying there as well, I suppose more knowledgeable. And you said there, data-driven decisions, and that's something that we find probably a lot of small businesses, they lack that knowledge, market knowledge or customer knowledge, and it's just given that a bit of time or doing a bit of research. It's where an area they fail, or they fail to see the importance of it, to be able to make those informed decisions as opposed to gut or with a hunch. Can I just pick up what the four of you pick up on that last, or one of the items, Jenny, you mentioned at the end there, and we have a few questions that have come in, but just that issue, maybe because I'll ask Cathal, because you were saying you're into your fifth business startup here. Jenny there highlighted how she lost herself in the business when it was everything to her. It was 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Had you a similar experience, or how did you manage that to avoid that pitfall?
Yeah, it's amazing when you talk to people, entrepreneurs who do it, you find very similar themes. So my first company that I thought was going to be huge, we raised a lot of money for it. The VCs fired me from my own company. And it took me a little bit like what Jenny said, it took me a couple of years to actually get over that. It doesn't always look like your success the whole way. Most entrepreneurs are going to fail once, twice, maybe 3 times along that journey. But it's really about getting up, dusting yourself off, learning from it, taking those, and then that builds resilience sort of going forward.
Okay. And Rosie, I know you're, as I said, you're fifth generation and you're coming into the business. How do you find that now, transitioning from being outside to be actively in the business now as CEO?
Yeah, I think definitely, to be really candid, obviously working in a family business, you really need to learn how to not bring it onto the kitchen table. And that's something I've been very keen on, being very militant on, not to be asked at breakfast what the sales forecast is for the next quarter. So I think Jenny's point about the passion for business, but not making it your whole life, and that you can actually run both in parallel. So coming in, I've loved a big part of it, but it's making sure that you can step back at times as well and enjoy a cycle with your dad without just talking about business.
Okay, thank you. Emma, are you back in there, Emma? I had a specific question. Yes, Emma, just as a question here from Kevin Doyle for you. Any specific guidance for business-to-business startups? So B2b startups?
That's quite a wide question. I'd love to know more about what you're thinking of doing. I think, you know, and I heard Catal talk about this, it's a great time to be starting a B2B business because the costs are low because you can start online. And in fact, this is the one thing, of course, we've seen in the past 12 months is no one's going to physical networking events. So if you're looking at starting a business that sells to other businesses, the only way in which you can meet those businesses is meeting them online. So startup costs are low because you can start a website, you can start to express your expertise through multiple channels, whether that be LinkedIn. I know Clubhouse has also been spoken about. So they're great ways of getting to market. And then, of course, hopefully if the sales come in that are higher than the costs, then it's a good business to be in. So yeah, great time to be starting or growing. But as I kind of said in my comments, leverage all of those digital channels available to you because that's where the customers are for the time being.
And Carl, you are a business to business, as my understanding is. So have you any insights or to add to that?
Yeah, no, it's, as I say, it is all about, it's amazing how innovative you can become when thrown a curveball, right? People's travel budgets have gone to zero. I mean, I used to travel to Ireland every 6 weeks, right? With no traveling, you have to reinvent, come up with new ways. And that does mean sort of online, does mean digital marketing. It means how do you get out there? How are you going to get known? And it means coming along to conferences and speaking at online conferences. But, you know, you definitely, I agree. I think now is the best time to start because the expectations for new businesses is that you meet online, right? So there is no expectation that you have to be in front of a customer there and then. So I actually think it is a good time to start a business now. And there's so many opportunities, right? COVID has thrown the world upside down. We're never going back to what was before. People are always going to sort of be online. So I think it is a good time. And it's just about sitting down, thinking about, well, how could I make a product or service better or easier and running with that. Okay.
Emma, there was a question, I think was posted there as well, just a general question around Enterprise Nation. If or when are the, I suppose, your Enterprise Nation supports going to be available, or are they available to anybody in the Republic of Ireland at this point in time, or when will they be?
No, we're very live in Ireland.
Yeah, okay.
So we hosted an event called Startup 2021 back in January in Ireland. In fact, our member of the month who's gone live today is our Ireland Startup of the Year. So there's an Amazon bootcamp coming up. We're offering digital training. We've got a food exchange event on the 26th of March. So yes, we're very live in Ireland. So if you just go to enterprisenation.com/Ireland, there's lots of information there.
Okay, another question for you, Emma. So it's like to hear more about when Emma sold and stayed working. How did she find being an employee?
Really tough. Yeah, and you've heard it, and sort of Jenny referenced this as well, is once you've started your own business, you make your own decisions, data-led or from the gut, actually. You're still making them regardless of kind of what data source you go on. So as I say, we had what was called an 18-month lock-in clause, and it, of course, the acquirer wants to keep you in the business because you, as the founders, they want to keep that kind of human capital within the business. But yeah, it can be tough. But as I say, I delivered absolutely everything that was said in my employment contract, so I did the job. But Michael mentioned at the very beginning that one of the books I wrote is called Working 5 to 9, How to Start a Business in Your Spare Time. And that came from a very live experience of essentially I would do my day job for Tenon, as the company was called that acquired us. But at nights and weekends, I would work on what my next business would be. So I tried to develop myself in that kind of new area. And so the book Working 5 to 9 is for all those people, still many people actually who fall into this category, who have a side hustle. So working a day job, building a business at nights and weekends. So I would say if your business does get acquired and you work for somebody else, I hope it goes well, because it could be that you fit perfectly into that new environment. But if it doesn't go well, of course, your opt-out is to return to entrepreneurship. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
Thank you, Emma. Okay, folks, I'm just conscious of time. I think there's just less than 10 minutes left. So I just maybe bring the panel discussion to conclusion with a few remarks, and then introduce my colleague Brenda Hegarty, Assistant Head of Enterprise, to, I suppose, just to do a summary of the key takeaways, but also say a few words about what's forthcoming during the week. I should also just say, pardon me, that for all our speakers, because we're not sort of meeting people, and we have a little takeaway for all our, well, not a takeaway, but it's posted out to all our speakers this week. It's a bucket list of Donegal, so it's a Donegal bucket list. So all of you folks around the rest of the country, you know, when we open up, get in your cars and come up here, and you can do some of the bucket lists, whether that's taking a plunge in Marble Hill Beach, or visiting Asseroe waterfall, or going out to Glenveigh for a walk, or whether it's down in Irish Forest Park in December. But it's sort of our bucket list for Donegal, and we thank Laura Buchanan for this, an artist down in, I think it's Rathmullen or Melton, but also one of our creatives in Donegal. So that'll be heading out to each of our speakers this week, just as a small token from the local enterprise office. During the week, we have, as I said at the outset, we seek to provide an opportunity for businesses to take some time out, hear from others, and be inspired by others. And this morning's session around leadership and resilience was very much trying to address the challenges and, I suppose, the way people have been feeling and the experience they've been having for the last 12 months. And I'm sure throughout the local enterprise network events of this week, that will be a reoccurring theme. But we wanted to give people the opportunity to, I suppose, to develop that positive outlook, to learn from others, to hear inspirational stories, whether it be Mark Pollock, whether it be Jenny Timothy, whether it be Cathal Mcglaw, Rosie Temple, or Emma Jones, because they're all inspirational and they're all applicable to a person in business and to businesses. So it is about that resilience and leadership. I'd also, just to finish, to say that in the context of the local enterprise offices, we are here to provide advice, guidance, mentoring, consultancy, now coaching as well, training, business support, and direct financial assistance. As Jenny said, there's a significant suite of supports. You marry those with the supports of Enterprise Ireland, you marry those with the third level, the Institute of Technology at local level, you marry those with your Uders and Gaeltacht, your partnership companies, if you're unemployed, even Department of Social Welfare. There is a significant ecosystem of support for business startups in the country and in each county. And your first point of contact is your local enterprise office. So I would now like to conclude by inviting my colleague, Brenda Hegarty, to say that final few words. And thank you for your participation, and hopefully you'll join us for some other events during Enterprise Week. Brenda.
Well, Sinead, and what a wonderful start to Local Enterprise Week 2021. Thank you so much to our speakers for a really inspiring and engaging morning session. I hope you enjoyed this spotlight event from Leo Donegal. There was lots of great advice and plenty of takeaways. Building resilience and leadership is key to helping businesses continue to navigate the challenging waters. There is no doubt that in a time of crisis, there is always a shift, a change on the way how we do things. Initially, this shift is usually negative, and certainly with the pandemic, that is the case. But it doesn't have to remain a negative, and we heard plenty of learning this morning of how we can adapt, turn the challenges into positivities, and many businesses can and will adapt and emerge positively from this crisis. Whilst the picture post-COVID is still not clear, as we continue to step forward, it will become clearer. Hopefully, the takeaways from this morning will help and inspire you to adopt the leadership and resilience that will help you shift positively to, as what Mark spoke about and Emma, to ground yourself to face the reality, identify what challenges are ahead, and chart that path that will bring you successfully and your business to the next chapter in the cycle. A line from Seamus Heaney seems particularly apt and poignant at this time. If we winter this one out, we can summer anywhere. And as you may know, today is the 1st of March, is considered the first day of spring in the meteorological calendar. And certainly, hopefully, as we have almost wintered it out. The pandemic, we hope the end is in sight, and we can spring forward with optimism and hope for brighter summer days ahead. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our contributors, for Minister Troy and our Caithfirleach, Councillor Rena Donaghy, for the warm welcome and the opening remarks. Our keynote contributors, Mark Pollock and Emma Jones, whose words of wisdom and resilience have really allowed us to learn, ground ourselves, but also to look positively with hope for better and brighter days. A special word of thanks to our 3 Donegal entrepreneurs for their valuable insights. Rosie, Cathal and Jenny sure you will agree that their personal stories of resilience, endeavour and enterprise has brought real value to this morning's seminar. Thanks to AVC for their contribution in helping us stream out this morning. It's not the same, as you know, but there is always positives, and we'll speak about those. And finally, thank you to each and every one of you for taking the time out to join us at this event this morning in such great numbers from all across the country. We really do appreciate your presence with us in Donegal this morning. Local Enterprise Week, while not the same, has its positives. It means we're able to bring a host of national and international speakers right directly to your screen. The local enterprise offices across the country have hundreds of events happening virtually, and there are indeed 8 more virtual events to help you tune in. So please do check out what your local enterprise office has on this week and see what is going on in your area. This is our first event in Donegal, and I would like to conclude by taking a moment to reflect on the other events that we have coming up over the next week. Following on today's theme on leadership and resilience, tomorrow the focus is on sustainability and the green economy, and the circular economy, with Dr. Declan Bogan and Caroline Pope, who will share their expertise and their wisdom in this area. And they're joined by 2 local businesses, Brack House and EnviroGrind. On Wednesday, no week would be complete without a nod to Brexit, so we're focusing in on Beyond Brexit. And Eileen Magner and her colleague Tony Connolly is coming on board with a range of enterprises to reflect on the impact that Brexit is having. Thursday, it's all about startups, and we learned a lot this morning, particularly from Emma, in relation to getting that ecosystem ready for new and more startups. And as the Minister reflected on, there is a great interest and encouragement in relation to the startups that is happening both here in Donegal and nationally. And our event on Thursday, Recipes for Successful Startups, will feature Niall Horgan from Gym and Coffee, as well as Cathal Sheridan of Huku Balance. And on Friday, the last of the Leo-led events will end with an innovation event, which is looking at collaborate to innovate and to collaborate to compete, with Dr. Carol Thomas and Dr. Alan Armstrong. Each morning, in advance of each of the Leo-led events, the Donegal hubs are coming together with well-being events, so we'd encourage you to help you to get into the zone for those events to join our Donegal hub partners. And in addition to those enterprise Leo-led activities during the week, we have 14 additional events which are being scheduled across the week by our enterprise partners, right up to and including next Monday, when Donegal Women in Business Network will host an event to mark International Women's Day and Local Enterprise Week. So the Local Enterprise Weeks are all free to attend, but booking is essential. You can check out our brochure and book our tickets via the website localenterprise.ie/Donegal. So thanks again for joining us here this morning. We look forward to seeing you at some of the additional events during the week, whether they're Leo-led events or whether they're our partner events. Go míle maith agah agus slán go fáil as dún na
Bye.